So, Robert, let's talk about today.
You want to intro this? Yes. Go ahead. Do your thing. This is your show anyway. This is not me. Go ahead.
No.
Go ahead. Come on.
Is this...
Do your thing. Do you know what episode we're on? No.
6.
Oh,
Drop the mic.
Oh, he does. He does
This ain't
know.
my first rodeo.
All right. Why don't you intro everybody? Say hello.
No, I like it when you do it.
You do?
I do.
All right.
Yeah, you good MC.
Do you hear the sirens?
Way faint.
Way faint? Okay. It's not that bad in my ears yet. Oh,
It is getting
it's
louder.
getting there. I knew it. So we're outside today, everyone.
Yes, there you go.
And
Good segue.
we are battling with some things. I will never again film this podcast outside.
That is a lie. We will, because I love nature.
Okay, that is true.
And that leads us right into conflict resolution.
I will fight you
Boom!
right here.
Right, I'll throw you in the water.
So we may do this outside again, maybe up at the lake, but not at this lake.
Got it.
So
Too busy, noisy.
It's busy
Got
and
it.
noisy. But today,
Yes.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of PJ Talks. It's another week, another great time to be alive.
It is.
And we have something kind of good that you kind of have dedicated a lot of time to.
I have.
Just because you have dealt with, well, me, for
right.
one.
Let's start with you.
Let's start with the biggest conflict you've had to resolve. No, today we're talking about conflict resolution.
Yeah.
This was something that you brought to me saying, hey, we got to hit conflict resolution because a lot of leaders do not know how to resolve problems, fights, arguments, any conflict that they're having.
Well, I think it's some of it is they don't know. Some of it is they do know, but they don't want to. But the knowing how, there's a process. There's some ideas we're going to go over. People aren't properly trained. It's not part of, they don't teach you this at seminary or Bible college. Seriously, a lot of Bible colleges, seminaries, I don't mean this wrong, but they do great theology and great doctrine and that kind of stuff, but they don't talk about this thing that you're going to have to do as a leader most days of your life.
It's that prevalent.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to lead, because
If you're going to be a leader,
the only person who likes change is a baby. And as a leader, you're always changing things, so therefore people get upset. So you got conflict there. You got, people with people, marriages with marriages, and so like that right there. We're gonna have conflict right now. Move my mic.
I did. Okay, so let's get into it.
All right, let's talk.
Number 1 on the docket for questions.
Yes.
I'm very distracted right now because there's ducks. There's literally I hope they come over here.
Wouldn't that be awesome? This is awesome.
Anyway, sorry, squirrel. Okay, this
I
time
love
it was
doing it
ducks.
outside, guys. For that reason, Robert gets distracted easy.
I do, and if a duck comes here, I'm going to grab one. No, mark my words, people. We are going to have a duck in the shot. Come on, he's coming.
Robert, come back.
Okay, first question on the docket
Yes.
for conflict resolution is, how did you, Pastor James, learn these skills early on in your leadership?
I can tell you exactly how.
Hit me with it.
Just came to New Life, been here a year maybe or two, and I was having conflict everywhere because we are the 16 pastors of a very traditional Pentecostal church, and I thought people actually wanted to change and get better, and they didn't. And about the second year, I went up to visit my friend Gary Donahue. You're so distracted by those ducks, aren't you?
No, I'm not.
This
I'm
is
listening.
just
You went up to your
hilarious.
friend Gary Donahue.
Gosh, you getting this, Elmer? This is awesome.
Can you see the duck right here, or is he out of the shot?
Okay, so anyways,
You're at Donahue's.
Gary Donahue, and he says to me, have you ever heard of this guy named John Maxwell? Robert, come back.
I'm listening.
Come back. So we're gonna have a conflict right now, and Robert is so distracted. You say squirrel all you want, it's ducky. Hey, ducky. So back to what I was saying. Gary Donahue, he says, have you heard of this guy named John Maxwell? And I said, no. He says, well, I want you to listen to this. And he gave me a cassette tape. Do you know what those are?
Oh, yeah.
He gave me a cassette tape. I'll never forget it. Confrontation, the thing no one wants to do. And it was a leadership lesson. And I listened to it all the way from the Bay Area back to Bakersfield. And I listened to it 3 or 4 times on my way home. And it just revolutionized my way of thinking about conflict resolution. And little did I know that I was going to have to practice that the rest of my ministry and my marriage. And, it really is. There is a skill. Okay, let me give you a quote from that. This is almost 30 years ago, but I remember. You're going to just want to drop this mic when I get through.
Okay.
Ready?
Pen and paper is ready.
Here's what he said. He's talking about how pastors and leaders don't want to resolve conflict in their organization because it's uncomfortable for them. By the way, if you really like to do conflict resolution, you need therapy. There's something sick in you. Oh, I want to, right? But here it is. Here's what he said. He said, if you refuse to resolve a conflict in your organization because simply it's going to make you feel uncomfortable, you are embezzling from the organization. And when I heard that and read that in his leadership podcast cassette tape, it changed my world. It's like, the reason why I don't want to go talk to that board member or talk to that Sunday school class teacher who's messing things up is because not of them, it's because it's going to make me feel uncomfortable. Yeah. But when I don't go there, it's hurting the organization. You're just going to let the same thing keep going. You're hurting the church. You're hurting whatever it is. And you're not resolving the conflict because of you. So guess what? You're stealing from the organization. And when I heard that, I went, okay, I got to start doing some conflict resolution.
So that word embezzling really hit you.
It did.
I've never really looked at conflict resolution in that light.
Right.
Because you don't think of it as necessarily hurting. You think of it as, okay, if I don't address it, maybe it will go away. Maybe I won't have to deal with this.
That's it.
Hopefully someone just leaves.
It's just going to get better.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
It never doesn't.
So
never doesn't.
It never doesn't. Ooh, that's not getting edited.
I hope you didn't. That's not getting edited?
No way. No. But, so let's bring it in. Yeah, focus, ducks. Oh, this is going to be a great episode.
Oh, my gosh. This is hilarious.
We are never doing an outside podcast.
Yes, we
again. Okay, bring me in on the first step to resolving conflicts.
Okay. I don't know. What is it?
No, I'm asking you.
Oh, I thought we had a list.
We do have a list from, what is it? Family first?
Focus on the family.
Focus on the family. That's...
This is so awesome. It's destroying his perfect world, and I love it, guys. I really do. This is awesome. This is so good.
Yeah. From Focus Family.
Focus on the family. James Dobson, yes.
So we have for the first one to define the problem and stick to the issue.
Yeah, because this is key. Stick to the issue. Define the problem and stick to the issue. Because what a lot of people do, this is when we jack up our conflict resolution, is when I'm no longer attacking the problem or the issue, I'm attacking the person. That's when conflict is wrong. Anytime Lydia and I get into a debate and it becomes about I'm going after her personally, I'm not talking about the issue, but I'm saying things about her personhood, that's when it becomes wrong.
Question though, in debate, they literally tell you to attack the person.
That's not Jesus. That's not the Bible.
That's good.
Because you don't attack the person ever. Their personhood. In fact, remember this. If you can't speak the truth in love, that truth should not be spoken. Boom, drop the mic. Because here's the thing. Well, it's just the truth. I just told him the truth. Yeah, but you destroyed them.
Wow.
Jesus never did that. Jesus never did that. Now, he'd be very direct and he'd confront issues, absolutely. But if it's done to attack the person but not the problem or the issue, then it's wrong. So step one would be just simply define what it is, define the issue, the problem, and then go after that. Say, I love you. Watch this. I love you, but there's this issue over here. So let's talk about this. I love you, but let's talk about this, your behavior here. That's a big, big difference. Rather than go, but it's the truth. That never works.
So number 2 on this list says for you to pursue purity of heart. It says, take a log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. Matthew 7:5.
Yeah. The purity of heart really means make sure your motive is right in going to them and deal with my own stuff first. Again, when you look at conflict between a husband and wife, many times when I've gotten upset with Lydia about something through the years, I mean, it's happened once or twice,
Yeah.
that if I will pause and pray first, take care of the log in my own eye, then when I go talk to her about that speck in her eye, I can see clearly to do it. It's not that big of a deal because I've taken care of my own. So you got to keep your heart pure. When you, as a leader, when you go to a staff member, when you go to a congregant as a pastor, make sure that you're taking care of your heart stuff first.
How do you prepare yourself, though, first? Like, we talked earlier in our series of talks on the getting right with yourself.
Right.
Making sure that you're solid morally and spiritually and stuff as a leader.
Right.
But if you're in that process of doing that, if you're in the process of becoming, getting that log out, because if it's a log in your eye, that's kind of a big
deal.
That's a big deal. That's going to take a couple surgeons,
Exactly.
So what if you're in the midst of surgery, but you're needing to address a conflict?
I would say be very careful that you maybe you put that off until you do get this taken care of.
So there's a time and place.
There's always a time and place. Always a time and place. And for me personally, through the years, when I've really screwed up in conflict resolution, it's normally been, because I'm a guy, as you know, when it comes to right and wrong, black and white, I'm really kind of wired that way. Gray is gray. I can be gray. If the Bible's gray, or if it's just a personal preference, opinion, I can be there all day long. But when I see something clearly like this is right and wrong, I kind of go there. But when I've really screwed up through the years is when what I was saying was true. But man, I was like amped up. I was mean-spirited when I went after somebody hey, we're going to talk about this now. Sit down. Ah. It always blows up in your face, destroys relationships. And at the end of the day, that's the difference between corporate America. I would argue that too, because the great leaders in corporate America are those who really understand relationships. That's the truth. But anyways, the difference is take care of myself first, calm down, get the amperage down a little bit, make sure I'm owning my part of the conflict, then go to them.
Next on the list, it says plan a time for discussion, which is what we just talked about, a time and place, because it will blow up in our face.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So what is the time?
Time and place.
Time and place.
Because it will blow up in your face.
Well, baby.
Ooh. We were singing a song earlier.
Yeah. You were singing a song.
Okay,
earlier.
I was singing a song. It's a rap song.
Yeah.
But there's this part at the very end, and it goes, baby. And PJ was just not having
I wasn't doing it well.
No. But time and place, or it'll blow up in your face.
Jesus said, go at once. We're talking about conflict resolution. You're at church worshiping, and you remember that someone has offense against you. Now, that's key, because a lot of us say, well, I'm not going to go to them. They have the issue. Jesus didn't say that. Jesus said, if you're worshiping and you remember they have something against you, you go to them, right? And he said, go at once. Leave church. As important as worship is, he says conflict resolution is more important than you worshiping. Why? Because God's not hearing your prayers until you get, remember when Peter said, hey, husbands, don't mistreat your wives and don't be angry with them and all that kind of stuff, because if you mistreat them, God's not hearing your prayers. So you got to be, this is serious stuff. It's spiritual, right? Then Paul said, Jesus said, go at once, go do it. But Paul said, don't let the sun go down on your anger, meaning within 24-hour period, go take care of that issue. And I promise you, these guys out there listening to us right now, and some of you know who I'm talking about, it's not 24 hours. It's been 24 months. They're still not taken care of. 24 years.
How do you go back then?
You must go back. And here's why. I'll tell you how, but you must go back, and here's why. Because a root of bitterness, and a lot of leaders are bitter. You never hear about a bitter young man, ever. You're about a bitter old man. You know why? Bitterness stockpiles through the years, and then they get up there in age, and they're cranky, they're bitter old men, bitter old women, because they've let all this stuff go all these years, and it's unresolved stuff with their kids, unresolved with friends or family or whoever, or staff member. So yeah, you must do this.
So what's the best way to go back?
Well, I mean, I don't know about the best way.
Or most efficient?
If you're going to go back to something that happened, I've done this. Oh my gosh. This is not private, what I'm about to tell you. I've said it publicly, but I was sexually abused as a child. I had a relative who sexually abused me as a boy. And so as a man, I'm 31, 32 years old. I began to deal with it for the first time in my life. Anyways, long story short, I went through a lot of stuff, but I had to go back with the help of the Lord, with my wife, a good counselor. But I had to go back and tell this person face to face that I forgave them. I told them what the issue was, how it made me feel. That's key. This is the issue, how it makes me feel. I always think that way when it comes to conflict resolution. And I said to them, this is what happened. This is how it jacked up my life. But I want you to know that through Jesus, I have forgiven you. And oh my gosh, it was a freedom in my life, Robert, that it is ridiculous. I can't even tell you the freedom it brought into my life.
Can you tell me about that feeling before when you walked in? Before everything was said and before you got it off your chest and you did the resolution of the conflict, what was it feeling like going in there knowing what was about to happen?
Scared to death. Because, see, internally, we're all still little children. That's the truth. I don't care how old you get. You still get a little boy in you, a little girl in you, and you know, until you resolve those issues. We get stuck. People all the time, they're like 40 years old, still acting out because they're stuck back at 12 years old when something happened to them, or 13 years old, or whatever it was. And they do. They get stuck emotionally. And they don't ever resolve it, so sometimes they'll go to their grave just stuck back here because they never resolved it. So you're scared. Yeah, I mean, I was. I had Lydia with me, and I drove all the way to, I won't say where, but another state in our nation, and I sat down with this person. And
was it spur of the moment, I'm going to handle this right now, or was it planned and executed?
Planned and executed. I very seldom saw the spur of the moment, just because I'm mad or upset, or those normally don't work out because they're really highly emotionally based, and that's where conflict gets really, really bad.
The next one on the list, it says affirm the relationship.
It's back to what I was saying. I separate the person from the problem. Separate the person from the problem. I separate the issue from my love for you. So I affirm the person.
Next, it says listen carefully.
You're listening to how they feel. Because sometimes, Robert, the truth is, as a leader, I've gone to a member of our church family or gone to a staff member when I'm thinking they're wrong, and I go to confront the issue and deal with it. Hey, let's resolve this. And as I'm listening back, I'm going, a lot of times, the issue wasn't that way at all. Or I misjudged their motives, or there's 1,000 things it could be, so be a good listener.
And you touched on this a second ago when you were talking about your family member. You said that you forgave them.
Yeah.
And you told them that you had forgiven them.
Yeah.
What's the importance behind that?
Well, you're locked in prison until you forgive them. That's what Jesus said. Forgiveness, gosh, if I could just help leaders understand this thing. Forgiveness really is the key to your internal life being well, to where you lead well and you're a safe leader. Because we do. In life, we're going to get hurt as a child, from parents, from teachers. We do. We get hurt. Then in leadership, listen, there's not a week that goes by, Robert, I don't get a card, an email, a call, somebody's mad at the church. Just the truth.
Yeah.
Because you're dealing with people. And so if you're expecting everybody to always love you and like you, everything, get out of the ministry, because it's not going to happen, right? So I have to be willing to resolve that all the time, because and then sometimes it's going to be that I have to forgive somebody. And that's another we could do a whole podcast on forgiveness, because what forgiveness is and what it's not is, people forget. They forget what forgiveness really is. Forgiveness doesn't mean that I got to be your best buddy. That person that sexually abused me as a child, that person is no longer in my life. Not because I hate them, but I forgave them. We did face-to-face. It's done. But if I never see this person again, it's really okay. It doesn't mean reconciling the relationship to where we're going to be buddies again. Because in a lot of cases, that will never happen. But you forgive for your sake, not for theirs.
Is there a difference in your approach to conflict resolution when it is...
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
This is key. Because I see a lot, again, the older ministers, older leaders, a lot of them, man, when they do this soul care well, the older they get more mellow, they get more gracious. I promise you, I'm way more gracious and kind and patient than I was 30 years ago. Because I was
You were just saying that.
Yeah.
We were moving all the stuff over here from one location to the next.
Yeah.
And you go, if you would have met me 30 years ago.
Because you were wound kind of tight, and I was kind of referring to that. And which I love about you, you want things to be done right. I don't know why I need to say this, but maybe somebody out there is listening. Maybe for the younger leader like you, why you need to take care of conflict. Because you don't want it stockpiling. Because I also see other older, aging, mature ministers, leaders, that get really angry. And they sabotage themselves. And they get to this harvest season of their life. You know, you get in your mid-40s, get up into your 50s, like me, headed towards the 60 mark in 3 years. And if you got all this unresolved conflict, you become distrusting of everybody, you get cranky, and you start sabotaging your own leadership. And at a time where harvest is coming in and you should have all this influence and God's just bringing it into your life because compound stuff all your life, they sabotage. I can tell you ministry after ministry where they jack up in their mid-50s or so because of anger. They're just angry people. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, they had this 5,000 member church and it's gone. What happened? This guy was just a crank. He just never took care of his soul. So she or he needs to constantly be taking care of this stuff in your soul so you don't become toxic.
Is there a difference in your approach when you are going to resolve conflict that you are angry about and what somebody else is angry at you for?
Your approach?
Yes.
If I know somebody's angry with me, I'm just trying to think through that. Yeah. You know, I want to know, are they going to hurt me? Do I need to bring lawyers and guns? Or I don't know, you know. I'm kind of tongue-in-cheek, but there are some conflicts. Henry Cloud does a great job in talking about, in his book called Necessary Endings. He does talk about those people in your life that you try to resolve conflict, and they are just harmful people, dangerous people. And even as believers, we got to know shepherds look for the wolves, and so sometimes you need to have some protection. Lawyers are in place at times, protection, and that's the extreme case, but it's there.
You didn't necessarily answer the question.
All right, shoot.
I want to get a little deeper on that
Mm-hmm.
because I'm interested on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say someone's mad at you.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between the way that you approach the conflict resolution in the sense of you spoke about how you were hurt by someone, so you went to them, set a time, place,
Mm-hmm.
etc., addressed it, forgave them,
Mm-hmm.
but if you're not the one that necessarily has to forgive, how do you approach that? Because you're not angry. Someone else is angry with you.
Yeah, I mean, if someone's angry with me, I want to walk in cautious and quiet and peaceful as much as I can, because you want to calm their anger as much as you can. You know, it depends on how volatile it is too.
Yeah.
But I would always come in with a softer approach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where's your biggest failure at when it comes to
Oh my gosh,
conflict resolution?
I have so many.
Give me the top one that you can think of. That is allowed to be shared.
Oh, gosh.
7 years statute of limitations and all.
This is the honest to God truth, Robert. In every close relationship that I have, because, I mean, so many going through my head, I've had severe conflicts and had to resolve them and work through them. And sometimes it's not a matter of one time. Sometimes it's you got to go back again and again and again until you get peace. But I don't think you can have a true friendship unless you are honest about the conflicts you have. You know, saying, hey, that really hurt. What you said really hurt or disappointed me or whatever it may be. Or they can come to me and say the same thing. Biggest one that just pops in my head, I could tell you about Bill Cheney, me and him. We we've had some big ones, and we resolved them. Eddie Summers and I were best friends for a lot of years, and then we hit a spot where he did something that hurt me deeply, and we went for probably 2 years with not able to resolve it and get peace. But the Lord, I was up in the mountains praying up at Camp Tehachapi, and I really sensed the Holy Spirit say to me, James, before the day's done, you got to call Eddie and try to resolve this. And so we're heading down 58. I'm headed down 58, coming home, and I'm fighting this thing. So I call up Eddie, say, Eddie, I really would like to see you and just talk about, you know, our relationship. And he said, okay. So we went over to Burger King on the east side, sat down across from each other, and I did the whole thing. This is the issue. I love you, but here's the issue, how it made me feel. And we talked about it, and Eddie apologized and cried, and I owned my stuff, my attitude and stuff where I've missed it, and I cried, and then we held hands right there in the Burger King, and both of us dudes are crying, and that was, everybody's looking, thinking, oh, okay, that's weird. And
okay, that's
we
weird.
prayed blessings over each other, and we did, and that began. I didn't fix it then, but it opened up the door towards then resolving that conflict. And today we're just really cool with this. You know, his son, James, is named after me. You know, we love Eddie and Janae, and now they pastor in the same town, and we're friends. And
If you can leave one thing on the table for everyone to remember about conflict resolution, hit me with it.
one thing, I think it's the key. I think it's the key to good, healthy, spiritual, long-lasting leadership. Because if you don't do it right, you're going to keep sabotaging your leadership. You want to do something great with your life, do relationships great, and part of relationships will always be resolving conflict.
Boom.
Boom.
I like how you've been dropping the mic a lot.
Well, I know I've got this, I can't drop it. It's like, you know.
No, you cannot.
Baby. Or how'd you do that? Go ahead, do it.
I'm not doing it.
No, do it.
No,
Do
I'm not
it.
doing it. Thank you so much, guys, for watching today's episode.
It's fun, man.
This week's episode of PJ Talks. We have a very special thing coming up very soon here at New Life Church, and that is Impact Conference.
18, man.
Make sure you guys are registering, getting online, seeing what's going on for Impact 2018. You will not want to miss it. The lineup is phenomenal. We're going to have killer worship. There's sirens in the background right now.
Yeah, it's all good,
man. Oh, my
man.
goodness. It's killing me, y'all.
It's a...
If you liked what you saw today, like, share, comment, leave us something that we can respond to. The email is right there at the bottom of the screen. But if you are listening, the email is podcast@nlc.life. That is podcast, the @nlc.life.
Right.
Send us your questions, send us your comments, concerns. We love to hear from you guys. We love what this podcast is doing in and through your guys' leadership tracks, your guys' just families, and our church itself. New Lifers.
We're honored, man. We're honored to have you guys join us.
Your ears, literally, I love walking through our church on Sunday and hearing somebody say, hey, I heard the podcast. It was great. And I'm like,
Love it.
Yes,
Love
we're
it.
impacting.
That's it.
Hey,
Multiple. Impact.
impact.
Everything's impact.
Impact.
Yes.
All right, guys, we will see you next week for another episode of PJ Talks.